As far as menacing sights go, this probably isn't one of them. Honda's S600 was quick in 1965, but not as quick as this one. Phil Penny's S600, Honda's first ever four-wheeled vehicle, once ran a chain-driven 600cc four-cylinder producing 42 kilowatts. Phil's added some side vents and modern touches, but none as major as what's under the bonnet.
Yeah, it's a Fiat 1800 twin cam. Yep. It's got a S102 Sprintex supercharger on it. At the moment it's only putting out 8 psi boost because I had it putting out 15 psi at 4,000 revs, but had to retard the ignition so much because I've got to lower the compression in the engine more. The pistons are original, the conrods and crank are all standard. We CC'd the head so that we could bring the compression ratio down. I know it's 8.2 at the moment, which is why I can only run 8 pound boost without having to retard it too much. It's got potential to go twice as hard as what it does.
But the Honda's advantage is its tiny size and weight.
This weighs actually 840 kilos with the 9-inch diff and the heavier engine.
Inside, the original seats have been retrimmed and the dash updated without harming its heritage. But the high point is the engine. And with a 1.8 litre supercharged twin cam, it lets out a fuel-injected supercharged bark from the Super Trap muffler.
And I've got a locker diff in it, so it should, if I don't wheel spin too much, it should take off all right.
So, how did it fare against the Bullet, a supercharged 4 litre? Not too bad, only about a second behind over the quarter mile. We went looking for another challenger. No. Maybe. Possibly. What? The Merc? Yep, Japan meets Germany, with a 13B rotary turbo mounted in this spacious, luxurious 300 SEL Mercedes cruiser. Even the boot's large enough to fit a dozen mats. Here's just one.
So what made you choose the Mercedes Benz? My dad's a Mercedes nut, really. He's always had one or two of them in the family. I just think they're grass cars, and look at the size of it. You can't compete with that size.
Size obviously matters to Matt, who's kept the original trim work in badges, even the automatic gearbox, and the factory hubcaps. But why?
Well, the standard of this car had a 6.3 V8 in it, and it had about 180 horsepower at the wheels, and it could do a 14.2 quarter mile. So.
Okay, if it works so well, why replace it with a rotary?
Better than any engine Mercedes could come up with, really. Like, more power, smoother.
How hard was it to fit a rotary into a Mercedes?
Looks pretty easy because of the amount of room that there is there, but probably the most difficult car I've ever had to put one in. Pretty major sort of subframe modifications and trying to clear the air suspension. Trying to keep everything cool in the air suspension is a bit difficult.
Well, if it's difficult, why keep the air suspension?
Taking about 150 kilos of engine out of the front of it. If you had a normal steel sprung car, bouncy, you'd have to drop the thing by about probably 3 or 4 inches. If you had the steel suspension, it just adapts to suit the weight in the car. It's just, it all works as standard. It's good. It's funny, you see people on the side of the street and they sort of don't match what they're seeing with what they're hearing coming out of the car. At the moment, it's got just over 195 at the wheels, horsepower. Yeah, I've got the original column shift still hooked up. Some of them did have a floor shift, but on that, column shift's got its appeal. I know it's pretty flash for its time, really.
So for an old school, modern muscle battle, the Honda faced up against the Merc. Phil seemed pretty confident in the Honda, so he didn't push too hard off the line. But the slow-starting Merc got its legs and surprisingly drew away from the Honda for a win. Phil wasn't having any of that in race 2. He jumps to the lead and hangs on to take the win. The racetrack was another matter altogether. The Benz is definitely all poise and manners, with slight tyre squeal from its high-profile white walls. Matt had a more descriptive opinion of it.
Sloppy, like driving a big piece of sponge rubber. Just wants to roll on the tyres. These cars with the swing axle, they do tend to snap oversteer if you're not careful, so no, I was just taking it very cautiously.
In contrast, the S600 is stiff and with Phil's mods made for the track, sitting flat and cornering fast.
Pulls hard. It's like driving a go-kart.
The Mercedes could best be described as cushy and comfy,